So you know, I was going to start off with regarding questions like and the logical things regarding like the legal system, UK mainly, but also USA, and their joint operation with GCHQ UK, NSA Prism program, which was a global surveillance program. And what I was just going through and questioning were a lot of things to do with like GCHQ and stuff themselves. Now what I saw in that documentation, which was some kind of stuff that Snowden leaked. Basically what it points out to there is like illegal activity and stuff. What they were doing, and it was their main principle. It was basically to take out political opponents or businesses and stuff, but all based on crime. And this is why I was questioning also in regards of the Terrorism Act 2000, the same as what it says about hacking basically electronic devices, section 2 here I think it was, like I said, in regards to GCHQ, where they were basically hacking other countries illegally. China was one of them, which would still be classed as criminal acts and breach of the Terrorism Act 2000. Also the Data Protection Act, which is another crime as well. And what was going on there was GCHQ, like the discredited target, which was basically based on falsified evidence. And it's the key aim of GCHQ/NSA's joint op, which was leaked by Snowden. I mean, things what they showed on this RT routers program, amongst other things, were basically like slideshot presentations what they would have had on their documents, and they also they've imprints to say it belongs to them themselves. I mean, set up a honey trap. That's basically set up the word itself. That's like what organised criminals do themselves. And honey trapping, this was all based online. There's also a crime already. Then write a blog purporting to be one of their victims, which basically means make up a false victim or something like that, which is falsified, and then claim that it's a victim of their target, which target again is also what they're trying to put across as their key aim. Again, that's falsified claims or evidence again. And then fake emails and texts to people like neighbours, etc. Through their number it would have been, and again that would have been falsified evidence and claims already. So all of that ready to me. It says GCHQ and NSA themselves were also basically hiding this as a criminal activity as their main principle. And then what went on to there, the definition, using online techniques to make something happen in the real or cyber world. Basically, what was based on was disruption, technical disruption. I mean, the dude Brian too, like I said, I believe is ex-CIA. He was basically showing in his videos that technique, what most likely would have been from his side, stateside NSA or CIA using on him, disrupting his videos, online articles and stuff. Again, that's based on crime, basically covering up anything he was trying to expose of his possible ex-agency, doing to him. And again, that still would be illegal. The deny, disrupt, degrade, deceive technique is also based on criminal activity. The way I saw it was deny, and that would be deny claims of used against them in legal cases, which is why it's based on as they show in this screenshot, it's all based on a cover operation. So it's basically behind the scenes, and where Edward Snowden leaked these, otherwise no one would have known. So therefore they'd cover up, deny any allegations made towards them, and the government arranged them would deny themselves. Same as what they did, like GSP, etc. Call him a traitor. Disruption, to disrupt via hiding posts or deleting them. If they're a political threat, or as like Brian too, they were doing it to a good reason. Degrade, that's based on degrading their targets. via falsified evidence and claims, manipulating anything online that they do. If they're a political threat, and even as it said, businesses and that, and then like deceiving, that would be using their media deception to deceive the public, based on this covert operation which wasn't known before, to discredit anybody who's a threat to them, political, business, etc. It was all based on this. Basically what I refer back to is this wasn't ever known for a few years since why the GSP, Global Surveillance Program, Prism program was going on, until Snowden actually found these, and he leaked them, and ironically was called the traitor and stuff. And this is what I'm trying to put across. This is why he would have leaked them in the first place, of seeing what they were actually doing. There's another screenshot somewhere. And then discredit a company, which is basically sabotage. And again, leak confidential information. First of all, that's breaching the Data Protection Act, on UK law side, which is illegal also, especially for a government to do. Which ironically, they made up those laws themselves. The Data Protection Act, posting negative information on appropriate forums and stuff. That would have been the government troll thing, regarding David Icke or anyone like that. Government pay trolls, they pay them, to post anything, so the public see, to discredit them, make them stop following them. Like I said, David Icke would be lizard people, already discredits him. It's so insane. And I saw that a lot, the same pattern with him, and it was always the same one. That's what they did, and where they look like a genuine profile of a member of public is where the public would be deceived based on this covert operation they use, and then stopping deals to ruin business relationships and stuff, without sabotage of any kind of businesses generally. But as I said, they could also do the same, of political opponents, or they see as a threat. To me, this is all based on illegal activity, and this is why I was questioning why Snowden was actually portrayed to be a traitor, and GCHQ, NSA, either agency, they never explained themselves as to why these things were leaked. And to me, it's ironic and illogical that they can justifiably do these things which were being covered up from the public, American and British, the world, and yet they never explain themselves, and it's justifiable for them to do, because put it this way, they were never leaked, and Snowden never got hold of them, these things would still be going on, and then nobody would know about them. And so this is what I'm trying to put across. First of all, questioning basically briefly regarding GCHQ, the fact that they're breaching Data Protection Act illegal, hacking other countries, breaching the Terrorism Act, regarding Terrorism Act 2000, and falsified evidence, which is also illegal in the USA and the UK as well. And to me, that says they were basically, and they still are, doing illegal activity, where they seem to have the justification to do so. It's not fair, in my opinion, for them to do these things and get away with them without, having anything, like legally chased towards their side. And then what I was following on to, I have to do this ironically to do with disruption. I can't do it via screen recording. For some reason, somebody's been disrupting my laptop, but there's nothing new there, and I know exactly who it is. People I just mentioned, most likely. And then what I was moving on to, like the terrorism definition, and what Loki was basically putting across on his terrorist track was the irony, what he put behind of what this statement he used. If you actually saw in legal grounds or knowledgeable grounds, he's trying to say, ironically, the people who were calling him a terrorist were using the same, definition behind suspected false flag ops. False flag op, which is what he used. I think it was Captain Cook or something on a Britannica 2011. and basically says it's you know, it can be defined as the systematic use of violence to create a general climate of fear in a population and thereby to bring about a particular political objective. I mean, you know, where they'd say that's in regards of this ISIS, etc., which I've already explained through. If you turn around that with good reason to be suspected false flag ops, it means it can also, you know, be used towards them themselves, you know, in a legal case to say the government or the people who were running the government at the time, Tony Blair 7/7, George Bush 9/11, could also be defined or, you know, classed as terrorists themselves under that act. You know, the systematic use of violence was used, you know, but applicated to false flag. And it caused a general climate of fear in both populations, UK, USA, both, you know, attacks, and thereby it brought around a particular political objective. Now, based on false flag ops, it would have been to, you know, for political gain and financial gain, and therefore, you know, with good reason, which both are false flag ops, it means, you know, that they're also classed as terrorism via, you know, Britannica, what they defined as 2011. You know, it's no different, and this is why, you know, Loki himself was saying this, I believe, was regarding a legal case of when he was, you know, claimed to be one, to say that you also are, you know, based on false flag ops. You know, there's so many ironic and illogical things to do with the legal system, not just here, but the USA, and where, you know, people aren't educated or, you know, taught these things unless, you know, you have the knowledge or, you know, you have the insight into these, you know, to summarize to say that all these things I'm saying so far are logical or, you know, they're unjustified. Seems that those agencies or governments, you know, justifiably can do crime, and yet anybody else who does anything that's classed as that, you know, it's a crime. And you know, in this system that we live in, it should be no different to what they were doing, to be you know, basically persecuted, well, not persecuted, but, you know, like jailed for it, or, you know, legal cases chased towards those, you know, especially when they seem to be the ones so far who have broke a lot of those laws. You know, like I said, 9/11, 7/7, and what I followed on from there, what I was questioning, you know, in regards to this non-violent extremism, which is also illogical. You know, is the way I saw it was it's a tactic they've deployed to basically cover up investigations into 9/11, 7/7, and I was questioning who they're covering them up for and why. I mean, like I said before, these are war crimes, and these are more serious than any other crime. You know, there was murder. If you see that as a war crime, false flag, that's basically genocide, homicide. And when there's a very good reason to say they were, I mean very, very good reasons, you know, the blatantness, you know, for them to basically go out the desperacy to bring in a non-violent extremism act, added to subsection of Terrorism Act 2000, it tells me, you know, that they're basically desperate, and it was a tactic to deploy a legal loophole to basically, you know, silence anybody in Britain who basically questions these things. And as I said, which would be unfair to, you know, 7/7 Truther movement, which is actually people who have family members of people who died, who would also be classed the same conspiracy theorists. I mean, there's a reason why they're so desperate to cover it up. And, you know, where in regards to GSP, NSA, GCHQ, as I said before, you know, it was, you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to worry about. And therefore, I'd ask if you've got nothing to hide, or hide for anybody suspected behind both false flag ops or suspected, and why are you trying to go to the desperate levels, you know, to bring in these illogical, stupid laws to basically cover up, you know, suspected war crimes. You know, the most major war crimes in history, in my opinion, 9/11, 7/7, based on their suspected false flag ops. That's what I went from there anyway. You know, basically what I'm trying to put across is, to me, with good reason, there's a lot of crime going on behind, you know, the agency GCHQ on British soil. and as what I pointed out, and in regards of investigation into war crimes where they seem to be covered up, and this is why, you know, with good reason on summary, you know, it's an illogical system, you know, legal system we're living in, and you know, there's no justification or, you know, justifiability for them to do it. What was going on also was, you know, where it comes to deceiving and connection to, you know, the 4Ds or 5Ds regarding GCHQ, and you know, the deceiving technique of what wasn't publicly known, and it was social media analytics. Now this is basically to trick the British public into believing that they would have the same interest as them. What I came across before was social media analytics. It's actually on a British-owned, British government site, legislation, and it says they basically analyse social media, which would be Facebook, the main Twitter, and basically what that's based on, the deceive technique from GCHQ is for the British public to would have not known that and never will. They basically study what the majority of the UK public like, you know, the biggest majority, and it would be to win votes and stuff. Say the majority of Britain is right-wing viewed. What they would do is they'd see what everyone on those pages using more technically advanced, you know, easier filters to find out Britain First, all those groups, and anything else, whether it comes to money, immigration, that are basically based on their cover operations, which GCHQ shown those documents tied with the deceive from the 4 or 5Ds, and then they'd basically use those, analyse the public, see what their biggest likes and dislikes are, and then you know, what they'd come out with the media is to say, Daily Mail, whatever it is, that basically they share the same views, or, you know, they have the same likes or dislikes, and the British public, whoever they use as their, you know, target, would never realise these things. They'd be deceived to believe, part of the 4 or 5Ds, that they share the same views, and this is how they would win votes. You know, it's based on deceiving and deception, and it all connects to GCHQ, online social media cover operations, and you know, part of those tactics they use, which Snowden leaked. You know, I could use the same with anyone. I could analyse if I wanted to do covertly, and if I wanted, you know, basically wanted to win, if I was like which game companies do, if I wanted to basically sell a game and outsell any other competition, say I was Rockstar, I wanted to outsell whoever make Saints Row, what I would do is business terms is find out what their biggest likes are, dislikes on games, to make the best game without them realising, or, you know, so directly, and this is how I'd beat my competition. Therefore it would be no different applicated, you know, on political games, using cover social media analytics. I mean, it's shown on an online document, and you know, it's not so hidden. You know, they've admitted they do it, but they're not so very direct about what they were doing. And even more, you know, it was never shown on mainstream news, or, you know, publicly known. This is something I had to come across, basically very subtle. And you know, these are things they also don't tell you. You know, but basically, in my opinion, if they wanted to win your votes, or win votes of a majority, you know, and be for a right wing, I'm not right wing, I'm not left wing, I'm just a human. But basically, assumptions. But if they wanted to win either the public's votes on either political terms, all they'd have to basically do is do this, the social media analytics based on the GCHQ online cover operations, and basically see the majority's biggest likes. You know, basically put that on a graph compared to where the rest are. And to win the biggest votes or win votes, you need to win the biggest majority of a population on what they like or not. Then throw through corporate-owned media what they would claim as their own views, which they don't care about. In my opinion, they care about money, and then make out as if it's their own views. The public wouldn't know all of this stuff being done, and they'd think they share the same views as us. Let's vote for them, and that's all based on, you know, deception, deceiving. You know, all of those, and people will never realise these things. unless you know with me, which I just have the knowledge into.
Something that is very real. It happens all the time, because it is in fact one of the most powerful ways to control people's thoughts and opinions. There are so many organizations, institutions, corporations and individuals who want to change what you think because they would get an advantage from it. That is why it is more and more important to familiarize yourself with these mind control techniques so that you are able to recognize them when they are played on you. Here are 7 sneaky secrets mind manipulators use to influence other people. 1. Making people trust and like you is easy if you establish similarities. That means that essentially that they somehow create the impression that they are like you. They can do this with a method called pacing, where they mirror your body language, certain expressions that you use, your intonation patterns, and so on. 2. If you give people a reason why they should do something, they are much more inclined to do it. It doesn't even have to be a good reason. Any reason will do, because that is the way our minds work. 3. You can secretly hypnotize people in the course of a normal conversation, and they will not even know what is happening. With the use of hypnotic language patterns, you can then implant hypnotic commands into their minds. 4. You can get people to do the most unbelievable things that they would not otherwise do if you just can get them to make a small commitment toward that action first. It is important that you do not try to get them to commit to the big thing first, but instead, just get them to do something that is seemingly irrelevant. This way, you create a kind of psychological momentum that takes on the life of itself. 5. It is more powerful to manipulate their emotions than to argue with logic. Most of the decisions we make because of the emotions that drive us, and we then use logic to justify these decisions. That is just human nature. 6. If you can show that what you want them to do is what other people who are like them also did, they are much more inclined to do it. Even better, if you can show them that people who have what they wanted the same thing that you want them to do, they will be eager to do it too. 7. If you can create a perception of authority, they will be much more inclined to follow your suggestions. One example of that would be if you can show that you have been published in the media and established yourself as an expert. Another kind of proof of authority is an academic title or impressive clothing. You have now learned 7 secrets of mind manipulation. None of them is revolutionary or mind-blowing, but combine these elements together and you get a powerful method to influence and manipulate other people's minds.
Today we're going to introduce
where it connected to GCHQ, and discrediting, which is also a part of the 4Ds to do with cyber covert operations, which is getting rid of political opponents, and multiple falsified claims and evidence on any political opponents, political activists, socialist, would come across to that one as well. Like I said, ex-MP, who's dead now, I think Britain, his name was, as I said, what I said in the other video, found to have falsified evidence from the Met Police on him. Clarkson, like I said, what happened with him, as soon as he went into, was going into Parliament, or was thinking of so, is all of a sudden, accused of assault, low key, where he was accused of being a terrorist, or where he won the case, which he argued to say that he was set up. Me, as I said, I don't have evidence, but possibly based on with good reason. Basically, in questions of trust on their side, the public trust in them, would be to ask how they can be trusted when based on those people themselves. They've been known to make false claims and evidence through deception. Basically, they've used dishonesty and lies, and yet the public still believe them when they've basically been known for lying and using falsified evidence, claims and dishonesty. And how they can be trusted, especially when they claim, that they're based on condemning evil and living in a country based on laws which condemn crime themselves. It's ironic and illogical in my opinion, based on this supposed legal system and how it works. Like I said, all those things I addressed in videos before, these were with good reason. Like I said, the webcams watching over what suspecting her to be in there. If she's in there, I'm not sure yet. But what he was basically trying to put across, but not so directly, was trying to make it as if people were trying to make out I was doing something I wasn't. Good intentions to make me bad, and there was other things like that. you know, which are forwarded before, which if they found out to be falsified claims, at least, you know, it's no different to falsified evidence legally if the people, I believe, were making them. And therefore, if I was added to that with good reason, and this is why I use the word possibly, I don't have evidence to say that I'd be another person also as a socialist or, you know, a political opponent in their eyes, would also have been basically, you know, had falsified evidence put on them, as much as Clarkson, low key, this MP, Britain and stuff. I'm sure there's a lot more, and you know, it makes me questionable. You know, when those people, based on put me aside, basically end up being, innocent, were actually persecuted by the people who are doing crime themselves, who basically brought themselves out of the woodwork to be the criminals. You know, to me it's ironic and illogical, and you know, it's a system that we live in which I'll never understand, you know, based on these terms. And like I said, this is why I never trust anything. You know, I read through it, but what the United Kingdom Houses of Parliament, you know, claiming their corporate-owned media, not just based on Loki, etc., Clarkson, but, you know, a lot of things, you know, regarding 7/7. I mean, how can I trust a government that's basically having put in their face, you know, no different to a legal case regarding, you know, like a police force or something, between DCIs or something, to say 7/7 was a false flag up, or people were suspected behind it, should be investigated, where they go to the levels of basically bringing in laws to basically say they're covering up whatever they can behind these things, and yet they'll turn around and condemn things which they also claim, you know, are just as evil. To me, in my opinion, if I was the PM and I was told, you know, 7/7 wasn't, you know, this terrorist cell, but something to do with a ex-prime minister being behind it, etc., you know, I'd bring my concerns even more, much as be shocked. And then therefore I question why, you know, they go to these tactics to deploy, to basically do anything they can to cover up suspected crimes. Like I said, I mean, disruption to do with technology. I've experienced this a lot regarding, you know, my own situation. You know, regarding what it was revealed, GCHQ. Like I said, these audio recordings are made before for these old videos, which I'm recording on now is Audacity. I remember the first couple of videos, I noticed the audio was basically had lots of edit cuts in it, you know, as if somebody had been tampering with the audio recordings. That would tie to GCHQ disruption techniques. Any listeners listen to wouldn't be listening either to the full audio, or not hearing it as far as it should be heard. And you know, it was a surprise to me when I came across what I saw. You know, there's lots of things going on regarding our government and agencies and even police forces that are based on criminal activity, and it doesn't make sense to me. You know, where they'll turn around and say they're actually, you know, preventing crime or condemn it, and yet a lot of them are known to be breaching Data Protection Terrorism Act, and you know, doing criminal activity themselves. You know, these are things I questioned anyway, and like I said, non-violent extremism, it just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, Terrorism Act, what I was seeing on there, and this is where I'm referring to, action falls within this subsection if it is designed seriously to interfere with or seriously to disrupt an electronic system. I mean, disrupt is part of the 5 or 4 or 5 Ds on GCHQ's, you know, cover operation, and you know, that's a disruption already. You know, the 4 Ds, that's already breaching the Terrorism Act 2000. That's disrupting electronic systems. It's also based on hacking, and you know, where they were hacking, you know, foreign countries abroad, as I said, China, which was one which they had no legal rights to do so. You know, that was already them basically breaching something which that ironically, you know, said they condemn or said are illegal themselves. Non-violent extremism, as I said, it doesn't make sense to me. You know, in a lot of regards, you know, they're basically saying that first of all, the Terrorism Act, which you've got to look as the main principle, the definition, terrorism, which it's classed as, which is in this act of terrorism means use of threat of action, where the use of threat is designed to influence the government or an international government or organisation, intimidation to the public or a section of the public. Use of threat is made for the purpose of advancing political, religious, racial, ideological cause. I mean, it's basically what the terrorism is based on. It's based on threat, intimidation, and violence. I mean, it legally doesn't make sense to, basically put people who are extremely peaceful, which is what they're trying to say, into a terrorism act which is based on violence, intimidation, and threat. People who are extremely peaceful. Like I said, it's like someone like Gandhi, or like John Lennon, or someone, basically saying that they would be threats today if still alive. For what they sung about or what they were about, Princess Diana, anyone. It's basically people who are basically about peace. It's illogical and it doesn't make sense to act to a terrorism act, which is basically, extremism is part of it. To say that, you're as dangerous, which they were saying, as people who use threat, violence, intimidation. It's just stupid and illogical. And like I said, this is why I said I refer to the only motive behind it, especially when the blatantness of what they're saying is just a tactic to deploy to cover up investigation into 7/7 on British soil anyway. I mean, what they were saying is the people who are as much as dangerous as ISIS group, because they're asking for investigation into 7/7 and stuff. They're as dangerous as people who are claimed to use violence, threat and intimidation, etc. For asking investigation into things that were based on those things. And to me, the blatantness is, it was used as a tactic to deploy as a legal loophole to basically silence people, question those things, and they bring themselves out of the woodwork, in my opinion. Like I said, and this is what I was saying in the last video, I mean, what they show to the public, they brainwash to see, as to people to hate. They don't realise those people also legally, and that loophole would also be affected anyway in the end, because when that was added to the legal system, basically anybody who protested, whether it was disability, anything, taxes, they could easily turn around and say this is illegal and arrest anybody who protested, because it would be peaceful protesting, and basically what the law would class to as being peaceful in any terms. And again, it was illogical, because the British public wouldn't be able to go around being civil, which is peaceful, but they also couldn't be violent and stuff. And how can you logically be in between the both? It wouldn't make sense legally to me, and I'm not even a lawyer, but these things to me, I question more based, there's a reason to it all. And like I said, what I saw, even though I don't have backup to it, but if it's true, what I suspect was, which I'll try and finish off with, whoever's doing it is, like, it's like a revenge pattern, what these people I suspect do, which are authorities higher up. If I made a video or something, I realised I was set up somehow afterwards. I know different to, like Clarkson, regarding, when he went into, when he was going to go into Parliament, all of a sudden he was basically accused of assault. It's like every time I make a video, I'm set up, or they put falsified claims or evidence on me, to say I'm doing crime, and to me it's a revenge pattern. I speak out, they find a way to put illegal incriminating evidence on me, and it's how they do it, because they're pissed off that I speak, the truth, which ironically and they'd say is loony tin hat theories, and that's how I see the pattern with it all. To me it's a corrupt system, and I see it all, and this is why I never understand how the British public themselves, or even American or any other country, you know, are blindly led to believe everything they're shown, and brainwashed to see us as, you know, like the enemy of the state. This is why, as we got into, I think it was Margaret Thatcher, she was also a Tory leader back in the 80s, who also said herself, socialists, which are people like me and Ike, are basically an enemy to them. You know, we say power to the people, and she was basically saying that makes us the enemy in those regards, because it's basically people standing up for their rights, and she didn't like to see the British public having their own rights, and to see them basically being told what to do. You know, as socialists, I don't know if the British public have been brainwashed to see socialism as a different view, but a socialist is basically someone who stands up for their own rights as a human as much as other people, and that's basically what it is. So I question why Margaret Thatcher said people like me, socialists, are basically an enemy to the state, unless they don't like us having rights as human beings, you know, people ourselves. And like I said, this is why I'll never trust anything regarding corporate-owned media stories or articles, because all I've seen where it's false flag up to anything like this, they're all filled with lies and deception. But you know, I would always question these things, although you know they'll probably never be looked into. At least you know I like to speak my mind on them. And like I said, and I'll recap on the not just GCHQ, government owned, but like the police forces of the UK themselves. I mean, like I said, this blue code system, although it's not been leaked, some British officers have mentioned, same as America, and basically the blue code system is based on, you know, employing people who are basically criminals, and so therefore, you know, what I see, and with good reason, you know, basically police officers who are criminals portraying to be upholding the law, but doing crime no different to organised criminal gangs. Blue code system is based on that, and what I'll leave with the America side of what it shows, like I said, honest cops who speak out against ones who do crime, arrested or threatened, no different to whistleblower Snowden, and the ones who do the crime keep their job, paid leave, etc. You know, it blatantly points out this blue code system of employing criminals, and which is ironic, is how they portray in the corporate media and stuff to say they condemn crime, and the people they employ to uphold the law, they're actually employing to do the crime themselves. You know, it's a system based on corruption, and this is why I'm not anti-government, I'm anti-corruption, because morality kicks in, and I'll never agree with anything based on, you know, corruption itself. But I guess someone like me, or you know, general people who are aware and awake, Ike and stuff, you know, we see through these things, and these are things I question myself. I mean, regarding 9/11, you know, there's been so many people across, you know, authority-wise, whether X and stuff, have actually said themselves, not just like forensic scientists, to say 9/11 was an inside job. Ex-CIA director had mentioned it himself to say it was, FBI, etc. And like I said, these, even though they were ex, I believe, you know, they'd retired, you know, they still had those jobs at the time. They only mentioned these things they suspected after, you know, leaving, based on probably legal grounds, you know, like whistleblowing, where they could have been convicted. But this is why I question why, when it comes to people who are basically directors, CIA, etc., saying this, that it's still being covered up. And it's being covered up because, for a reason, the word cover up, you know, is the blatantness to say, you know, they're covering up a crime that they know it was. And like I said, until the British and American public, you know, are aware of that, unless they support these things, if not, and actually know or never realised, you know, it's time for you to wake up yourself. Because like I said, some people it would scare, you know, to me, years ago, I realised these both nations ran on corruptancy within their agencies and governments. It's just the fact that, I don't know, you know, seems a lot of people see me as a loony nutter, tin hat theory, conspiracy theorist, and it's just more like someone who's awake. So that's all I leave on that.